Hello, I'm so happy you're here. Today I'll show you how to crochet this pretty snowflake and how to starch it. So get comfy, grab your hook and your yarn, and let's crochet together. I'm starting with this Cotton Fair yarn by Premier. It's a fine number 2 weight cotton yarn, and I'm using a 3mm hook. So we're going to start with the magic ring. And then we're going to chain 6 to begin. 3 of the chains will count as a double crochet. So chain 6, and then we'll double crochet into the magic ring. And then we're going to chain 3, and then we'll repeat the sequence to double crochet and chain 3, we're going to do that 4 more times until we have 6 double crochets, including the chain 3 at the beginning, and we'll have 6 chain 3 spaces. And you'll end with a chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch to the 3rd chain of that first chain 6 that we did. So just slip stitch there, and round 1 is finished. Looks like that honeycomb cereal we used to eat. I don't know if they still make it. Okay, we're ready for round 2. So we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain space there. And we're going to start with a chain 6 again. And we're just going to go to the next chain 3 space and slip stitch, and then excuse me, and then chain 6 again, and just repeat that around. We're just going to chain 6 and slip stitch in the next space. Okay, so at the end you're going to slip stitch to the first stitch, but I could not get my hook in to the stitch, so I kept trying there to get my hook in that slip stitch, but it was very tight. So I just gave up and I put my hook underneath. So I put my hook underneath that loop and did a slip stitch. Okay, so it's okay. It's not perfect, but it worked. And you should have 6 loops around the outer edge of your work now. Now we can start round 3. We're just going to go directly into the first chain space and do 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochets. Oops, there's 7. Okay, so we should have 7 single crochets in the first chain space there. And then we're going to move our hook directly into the next chain space. I like to pull up on the stitches, it just makes them look neater. And put your hook in the next chain space and do a single crochet. And we're going to do 7 altogether. 7 single crochets. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Alright, and you're going to go around and do 7 single crochets in every space. And when you get to the end, you're going to slip stitch into the very first stitch of the round. So just do a slip stitch there. And we're ready for round 4. And for round 4, we're going to slip stitch into the first 4 stitches. So we slip stitched into the first one to close the round. So there's 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to chain 9, chain 9 times, and then we're going to slip stitch into the 4th stitch of the next arch. We're going to slip stitch at the top of the arch in the 4th stitch. And then we're going to repeat that all the way around. Slip stitch and then chain 9 and slip stitch at the 4th stitch of the next arch. Alright, so at the end you're just going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and that was a slip stitch again. Slip stitches are all so tight sometimes. I had to fight with it, but I got my hook in there. And you're just going to slip stitch there. So sometimes that is a challenge to get into a tight stitch. Alright, so now we're ready for round 5. Good job. Look at us. We're getting it done. Okay, so now we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain space. And then we're going to chain 4. And that's going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our first sequence, I guess you could say. Double crochet, chain 1, then double crochet again in the space, and chain 1, double crochet, and chain 1. And we're going to do this until we have 6 double crochets. And 6 chain 1s, but it actually amounts to 7 chain 1 spaces, I believe. So 6 double crochets and 7 spaces. And now, after you have that first part done, you're going to front post double crochet around the slip stitch between the chain spaces. So you just yarn over and put your hook underneath the stitch, and then yarn over, bring up a loop, and just finish like a normal double crochet. And then you're going to chain 1, and then double crochet, chain 1 6 times into the space. So at the end of round 5, don't forget to do the last front post double crochet. And then you'll chain 1, chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch to the 3rd chain of the chain 4 that we made at the beginning. So just slip stitch in the 3rd chain. And you're ready for round 6. Round 6 is going to take the longest. And so right now I'm just going to weave in my tail quickly just to get that out of the way. And we're ready for round 6. And we're going to start round 6 by chaining 15. Make 15 chain stitches. And this is going to be the long branch of the first long branch of our snowflake. And we're going to find the 12th chain from our hook and slip stitch. And it just makes a little loop there. And then we're going to chain 14. And then we're going to find the 10th chain from our hook. So we're leaving 4 in between, and we're going to slip stitch to the 10th chain from our hook. So we have another little loop. And then we're going to chain 11. And now we're going to slip stitch in the 7th chain from our hook. And then we're going to chain 7 and slip stitch in the same stitch that we previously stitched into. So in the same stitch, slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 6 and slip stitch in the same stitch again. There are a lot of slip stitches in this pattern. Okay, so we have below this little grouping, we have 4 chains. We're going to slip stitch in each of the 4, actually 5 chains. We're going to slip stitch in these 4 chains, and then in the same stitch where that loop, the next loop is slip stitched into. So we're actually doing 5 slip stitches. So right here we're going to go into that same stitch where we slip stitched the loop there, and we're going to chain 10. And slip stitch in the same stitch again. Okay, so it's starting to look like a snowflake a little bit, but it will not look right. It won't be right until it's starched. So It's going to be very floppy until we starch it. So slip stitch in the next 4 chains. And then also in the stitch that was slip stitched into by that loop there across on the other side. And we're going to chain 12. And then slip stitch in the same stitch again. And below this, there should be 3 chains left on our little branch. And we're going to slip stitch in each of those 3 chains below. Okay, so the branch is finished. So that part is finished. It'll look much better once it's all starched. I'm always trying to straighten it out. But it'll be very floppy until we are finished with it. Okay, so we're ready for the next part. We're going to single crochet in the space, the next chain space, and then again in the next chain space. So single crochet in each of those next 2 spaces, and then in the next space, the third one, we're going to single crochet and then chain 4, and then single crochet in the same space. Yes, single crochet. Okay, and now we're going to do a number of stitches in the next space. We're going to double crochet, and then we're going to treble crochet, so you'll yarn over 2 times, and treble crochet, and then we're going to do a chain 8 and slip stitch at the top of the treble crochet. I call that a chain 8 picot. So you just chain 8 and then we're going to slide our hook under the front 2 loops at the top of the treble crochet. And I had trouble with this here. For some reason my hook would not go in. Usually I don't have a problem with this, but my hook didn't want to go in there properly. So there are 2 vertical threads at the top of every double crochet and treble crochet, and I like to slip stitch there whenever I do a picot. And I just couldn't get my hook in there, but I finally did. And I'm slip stitching here. There we go. Finally. And then we're going to do, so there's half of it, then we're going to do another treble crochet in the same stitch. All of this part is all in the same stitch. Treble crochet here, and then we're going to double crochet in the same stitch. And then in the next stitch we're going to single crochet, chain 4, and single crochet. So in this space we're going to do single crochet and chain 4 and single crochet again in the same space. And then there should have been 2 spaces there, but I only had 1 here. So obviously I made a mistake, but I just went ahead and did 1 single crochet. There should have been another space for another single crochet. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch into that double crochet in the middle. Just slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 15 and do our long branch again. So then you'll start from the beginning of round 6 and go all the way around. And so we'll do 5 more of these of that section with the branch and the part after that. Okay, so we'll do this 5 more times and we'll be finished. So chain 15, slip stitch to the 12th one from the 12th chain from your hook. And then you're going to chain 14. And slip stitch to the 10th chain from your hook. I'm having trouble counting, I think. And then we're going to chain 11. And slip stitch to the 7th chain from the hook. And then we're going to chain 7 and slip stitch in the same stitch as the previous slip stitch. And then chain 6. And slip stitch in the same place again. Alright, and then you're going to slip stitch in the next 4 chains. And also in the same stitch as the opposite loop. And now you can chain 10. And slip stitch in the same stitch again. Okay, and then slip stitch in the next 4 chains below. And one thing you can consider is if you'd like to make this snowflake a little more compact, You could just do fewer chains on the branch. So instead of having 4 chains between the groupings, you could do 2. I actually made another one when I was developing the pattern, and I really like it. I think I'd like to make another version of it so that the branches are a little bit shorter, and it really looks pretty good. I like it, that version also. Alright, so you're going to chain 10 here. Or am I at the last one? If we're at the bottom one, we'll chain 12. Okay, chain 12, I think. The one in the middle, on the second side, we chain 10, and then the last one we chain 12. I think this is chain 12 and slip stitch in the same stitch. And okay, yeah, that was the bottom one. So there should be 3 chains, and just slip stitch in each one of them at the bottom. Okay, there's our second branch. Sometimes your snowflake will get flipped around, so try to make sure that your work is on the front facing you. And then you're going to single crochet in the next chain space, and single crochet again in the next one, and in the third one we will single crochet, then chain 4 and single crochet in the same space. Single crochet, chain 4, and single crochet in the same space. And the next space is where we're going to double crochet, then treble crochet, chain 8 and slip stitch at the top of the treble crochet, and then treble crochet and double crochet in the same, all in the same space. So start with a double crochet and treble crochet, and then chain 8, and then slip stitch under the 2 strands of yarn at the very top of the treble. See how easy that was? The first one was hard, but this one turned out easy. Usually it's no problem, it's simple like that. Okay, and then treble crochet again in the same space, and then double crochet in the same space as well. Alright, and now we can move to the next space. Sometimes I like to flip the little chain loops out. They kind of flip forward a little bit. Okay, so in the next space we'll single crochet, chain 4 and single crochet in the same space. And then we should have 2 spaces left, and we just single crochet once in each of those spaces, and then slip stitch in the double crochet in the middle there. And then you start over, start from the beginning again and do that whole sequence again, and then you'll just do that till you're finished. All right, great job. You finished, but it's all floppy. It doesn't look very nice. It's not going to lay nicely. So we're going to take equal parts of glue and water. And if you really don't have any glue and you want to do it, you want to get it done, you can use equal parts of sugar and water. And it also, I haven't tested this out, but I know that my grandmother used to do that method. So you can mix sugar and water, or glue, Elmer's glue and water, or any kind of school glue. And you're going to soak your snowflake. Soak it good. And then squeeze out some of the excess. You don't have to squeeze it all out, but squeeze a lot of it out. Take it and lay it on a piece of plastic, and then just shape it with your hands as best you can. And then we're going to pin it. We're going to use a piece of cardboard underneath. And if you have a piece of foam board or anything that you can put pins in, that'll work. Even a towel possibly would work. So you're just going to shape your snowflake and then get some nice sewing pins or something. But they might get glue on them, so you may not want to use them for your sewing afterwards. So just keep that in mind. And if you're going to order pins, get stainless steel pins, because sometimes sewing pins will rust on your project. So you're going to pin down every single point, every one of the little points, and shape them as much as you can, and then pin it all down really good. And 24 hours later, you're not going to touch it for 24 hours. Just let it dry. Put it somewhere where you won't look at it so that you don't get tempted to play with it, because that will mess it up. So take all the pins out 24 hours after it's completely dry, and it'll be nice and stiff, and it'll hang up in your window or hang up on the wall somewhere beautifully. So there you go. It makes such a pretty decoration. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and have a great day.